moment to breathe, grab a beverage or two. We got professional guests with lots of stories for you. So take a seat right here and join us on Careers Over Beers.
Hello, everybody. If you're here from Good Day, Kansas, I want to give a shout out to Jillian and Carol. Thank you for having me on your show, and welcome to the show. I'm Jesse Krause, the podcast host. This is Careers Over Beers podcast, and I'm with my cousin Zach today.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. We're drinking some Pabst Blue Ribbon, guys.
It's the best.
Back
Can't
on that
go wrong.
PBR train. I've had this a few times now. My old man brought it on, too.
Good choice.
It is a good Pilsner, man. It's a good beer. This is your favorite beer, I'm assuming?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Can't go wrong with the traditional old school redneck
Old
beers.
school redneck beers. None of that light bullshit, right?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
All right, Zach, tell me what you do real quick, and let's cheers.
Well, I am a police officer for the city of Wichita. I've been doing that for 4 years now. So.
Hell yeah, brother. Cheers to you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. That hits the spot.
Crisp.
It is crisp. All right, well, you've been a police officer for 4 years now.
Yes.
Let's get into your backstory. Tell us what you did.
So always kind of had an interest in law enforcement. Just kind of, I guess, the public service side of things. When you're a little kid, everybody always wants to be, firefighters, police officers, doctors, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of always had an interest in it. So I initially actually did military, which was fun. I enjoyed it. Did that for 4 years, but decided, it'd be nice to be home with family. Always grew up family oriented, so I was like, why not continue that sense of service, but do it back home?
There you go.
Make a change
You've
locally.
always been interested in just serving the people.
Absolutely.
And you were in the Navy, right?
Yes. Did 4 years in the Navy, stationed on the East Coast at Virginia Beach. Don't let the name beach fool you, because it's not not fabulous. It's not like when you watch TV and see like California, Florida style.
No.
Yeah, definitely not as cool as some of those, but I enjoyed it. It was a good time.
But you were out on a boat for a long time.
Yeah, I think in my 4 years, military-wise, I was probably either on deployment or underway for, I'd say, easily 2.5 years out of the 4.
Damn.
Just constantly going on workups, things like that, always being out, which I guess is kind of the point being in the Navy. We float on the water. So
Float on the water. It's
absolutely
crazy. Probably some fun stories from that as well.
Yeah, I mean, we got to do all sorts of cool stuff when we did that. I think one of the coolest things I enjoyed was we were floating. I don't even know where it was, but they told us it was Somalian pirate waters.
Oh shit!
And we were doing some just search and rescue stuff, training, and so we were on a little small boat, drove all the way away from our ship. So it was just us in open ocean, and we got to go swim. And so, you're in this basically like the size of a fishing boat, almost in the middle of the ocean with nothing else around. And so we jumped in and swam. You could see all the way down to where the water turns dark. You could see sharks, all sorts of things swimming under you, and it was just cool because they told us there's pirate waters too, so what makes it even cooler. So
it's crazy that there's still pirates out there,
Absolutely.
It's like the one movie with the Somalian pirates.
Yeah, with Tom Hanks.
With Tom Hanks, yeah.
That was my thought. But obviously we didn't get to do anything as cool as that. But
no,
still
you didn't see any black pearls rolling around out there?
I did not. No Jack Sparrows or black pearls. But probably for the best.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your service, man. I wore this shirt. If anybody can see it, it says Operation Ride Home. It has two meanings today because ride home if you're drunk, cop. I'm sitting here with a police officer.
Absolutely.
But also, this has another meaning that's you'd probably appreciate. Jack Daniels has this thing called Operation Ride Home, and they raise money for military people that are away or they're stationed far away, and they can get a ride home to their family during the holidays and such.
Okay,
because
that's great.
Yeah.
A lot of your I noticed a lot of your alcohol companies are really pro-military, things like that.
Yeah.
They're always helping out, donating money, stuff like that, and it's always great.
What's more American than Jack Daniels?
Absolutely. I'd say if you're wanting to go with something a little more harder than beer, you can't go wrong with Jack Daniels. Otherwise, PBR is the way to go.
PBR.
Red,
yes,
white,
sir.
and blue, baby.
Yes, sir. So you get out of the Navy, you come back. Now you're going to be a police officer.
Yes.
How do you even start that process?
So the process is actually, it's simple for the most part to get started. I literally just got online for the website for Wichita and applied. Initially, when I was getting ready to get out of the military, I looked at some other agencies, Kansas City, and a few places up in Virginia Beach, just because the idea of moving. When you've been established for 4 years, we had a kid at that time, and I didn't know if I wanted to move back because it was nice being away on your own. So I applied at some of the suburb cities of Kansas City, like Olathe and some of them. I actually got a call from Olathe. They wanted me to come do some interviewing and stuff, which I couldn't because I was still in the military. And then started looking into Wichita. So initially I came back back home to Wichita in 2016. I actually decided to go to school. So I did school for a year and a half. I went to Friends traditional route just because I never really fully experienced that.
Never got that college experience.
Exactly. I went a year before the military, but I never got that full aspect of going to school on campus, stuff like that, other than a small portion of it. It was good, but at that point I think I was 22, 23 years old. So I was about the same age as most seniors in college. Had a kid, a wife, was also working at FedEx at the time. So I would go to work at like 2 in the morning, get off around 9 or 10, and then go to school all day long. And so it wasn't fun, very tiring. So then I started at Baker University in an adult program. I did that for half a semester while I was applying for the police department. So basically I got online, went to there's a spot on the Wichita's website where you can apply, and just went through there. Basically, once you apply, you fill out your application and everything like that. They'll contact you and then look at setting what's called an initial kind of aptitude test. Basically, kind of like any aptitude test. You go in there, it's a lot of basic questions, just kind of just
to see if your head's screwed on straight.
Exactly.
Do you have you have common sense?
Common sense, comprehensive stuff, things like that. And then if that goes well, they'll call you and they schedule a physical test. At the time when I did mine, the test was you had to do a 1.5 mile run. You had to do push-ups and set-ups. I think it was like as many as you could do in a minute for each. And then you did it's like an obstacle course. And that one was you would run, jump over a couple different barriers, like walls from like 3 feet to 4 feet, and then you had to jump through like a homemade window, come back. And then after that, they'd see how you did, and they'd call you. You do some interviews. They had like a first contact interview that you would sit down with the detective. There's literally 150 plus questions. It was like 50 pages worth of questions that you would fill out and answer, just from all sorts of things about your history, your life, and stuff. Then you'd sit down and go over that with the detectives, and if that went well, you'd get your call back for what was called a command staff interview, which is basically just an interview with command staff. I think you had some captains and some lieutenants maybe on the police department that would sit down, interview you, ask you, basic questions for any interview. It wasn't anything like out there, just normal stuff. Why are you interested in the job? What did you do before this? Do you have a family and all that? And then you'd have an interview with the chief, and then somewhere along the process, they would schedule you a polygraph. So you'd go in there and you do that. It was basically that
lie detector test.
Exactly, yeah. And it was basically that questionnaire that you did with the detective before. They pretty much went over those questions again.
Holy crap! So it's like interview after interview to
yeah,
go through this process.
There was probably, I want to say, 3 interviews and then a polygraph, if I remember correctly.
And that's all after you did like the obstacle course and the physical fitness test?
Generally, I think it's after all that. It's been 4 years now, probably almost 5 once I started the whole process. And some of it's changed a little bit. But, yeah, you do several interviews, with detectives, higher ups on the police department, polygraph, stuff like that before you get that final.
There's no like basic training like there was for the military?
There is once you go through the whole hiring process itself, if they choose to select you, then that's when you start the academy, police academy.
Okay.
I think I started applying August of 2017, I want to say, because it was right around when I started at Baker, and then I started in January of 2018.
You started what in August?
I started applying for Wichita.
Oh, okay.
In August, I think, of 2017.
So it's about a 4-month period?
Yeah, give or take.
5 month?
A lot of it kind of depends on when they're looking at classes, stuff like that. Now they usually have a class every 6 months. They start a new class in the beginning of the year around January, February, and then they'll start another one usually in the summertime. And a lot of the times they'll run them concurrently for a month or so. But yeah, usually about every 6 months. So the process generally is right around 6 months, maybe a little less.
Okay, so if I wanted to become a police officer right now, I could expect it to be 6 months before I'm actually working the job?
Potentially, yeah, or at least till you start the academy. A lot of it depends on how many people they want for the class. Depends on when the next class is, things like that. Sometimes if they really want you, they'll push you through and speed everything up. It's really a case by case per person and when you can start. Some of it's age requirements. I know you have to be 21 to be an actual police officer.
Oh, really?
I think that's state law for Kansas.
That's weird.
Yeah. You can work detention side, so like at the jails and things at 18, but to actually be a police officer that goes out on the road, and that includes, I think, Sheriff's Department as well and all other agencies.
Wow.
I think CPOST, which is, I think it's Kansas Peace Officers, something is what it stands for. They set kind of the general standards and rules for law enforcement in Kansas, and so 21 is the minimum age. And I'm not sure if you have to be 21 before the academy or before you graduate. But yeah, you got to be at least 21 once you get out on the road.
Interesting. So 18 for military, but 21 for cops.
Absolutely. It's one of
What
those
the hell?
$1,000,000 questions, 18 you can vote, 18 you can join the military.
Yeah, but you can't even buy chew or cigarettes anymore.
Yeah, nope, can't drink, can't smoke, none of that, but you can do everything else.
Yeah, you can get deployed.
Yeah.
You can go out and swim in some pirate waters, but you can't buy a
absolutely.
can of chew.
Yeah. In military, tobacco was a staple for you.
Oh, yeah. Same with cigarettes, especially
yeah.
back in the old days.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I learned is when you go overseas, the United States is the only country, at least that I was at, that did chewing tobacco. No other countries do that. And talking to a lot of the guys that have been in other areas, it's pretty standard. A lot of countries smoke, but they don't do chewing tobacco. I guess it's considered too gross.
It's the Wild West out here, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Wild West, But, I mean, the process can be a little lengthy at times, but at the end, it's definitely worth it.
What's the actual academy like when you're in there? Is that like boot camp?
It's kind of like boot camp. Half of it is practical based. The other half is like almost like going to school. Because you got people that'll move from all over the United States to join a law enforcement agency. We had people that moved from other states to come down here, so they basically start you at the bottom. It's 6 months long for the academy, and you'll go over federal law, state law, all the way down to city law and ordinances, because there's different breakdowns for each.
So it's 6 months from the start to the end of the academy?
Yes, the academy.
And that's after you go through all these interviews and all these polygraphs and stuff?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Okay, so you're talking way longer than...
So, yeah, so once you get on the police department on the academy, you're considered, I believe you're considered at that point a police officer by most standards. Obviously, your rank in the hierarchy area would be a recruit officer, but I mean at that point
you're just a recruit or a trainee, kind of like military.
Exactly, but you're essentially a police officer at that point. Your standards are the same once you start the academy as everybody on the department, no matter how long you've been on. It's all the same standard at that point. You're just hierarchy in it is recruit officer.
That's interesting because 6-month academy, a lot of people, I think a big misconception is that police officers have way less training than military personnel.
A lot of it depends on agency-wise. Wichita obviously being the largest city in Kansas. Their academy is a little longer. The state academy for Kansas, I think, is half that.
Okay.
But the state academy, I think there's like 2 or 3 throughout the state. One of them closest to us would be Hutchinson, and they do a lot of your small town stuff.
If a small town cop, you're probably going to be doing a lot less training than the city of Wichita or a bigger city than that even.
Yeah, for the most part. So the city academy here in town is for Sedgwick County and Wichita. So the sheriff's deputies, the detention deputies, they go to the same academy that we do. The detention deputies, their academy is substantially shorter because there's a lot less involved, I guess, with what they have to do and know. The sheriff's department is the same as ours, and most of the time we do a lot of stuff hands in hand with them. Your state academy, I mean, obviously you've got cities. Every city has their own what's called an ordinance or city law. So a lot of them don't need as long as an academy for that because the state academy focuses on the state as a whole because state laws are the same. Your city can have stricter laws than the state, but they can't be less lenient. So the state will set the laws, and that's what you have to follow by. And then each city will have their own individual stuff, and a lot of that comes down to like traffic ordinances, different things like that. Drinking laws, depending on like
drinking
where
laws.
you can drink. Wichita, you can't drink in public unless it's a specific event or like if you're outdoors on like a patio to a bar or something. Some cities don't have that. Some cities, Joe Blow could be walking down the street drinking a 40.
Yeah.
It's, no big deal.
Just walking to the grocery store,
Absolutely.
having a morning beer.
Yeah, carrying his 24-pack of Paps with, one missing because he's, drinking it as he walks.
So that's a city thing, not a state?
I believe that's a city thing because the city has its own specific laws, intended for that. I want to say open containers, I think, is a city-specific thing.
Really?
I don't remember if I can't remember if there's a state law with that or not. There's so many different laws that, it's sometimes it can be hard to keep track of.
Yeah.
The big stuff, easy to figure out and know. The city that you're in, it's pretty easy to remember and all that, but each city can have their own kind of specific tweaks and stuff. I know, we have a lot of city ordinances that are only applicable within Wichita that sheriff's deputies don't use. The sheriffs have their own county codes or stuff that might be different than ours and things like that. So your smaller agencies will go to that shorter academy because it focuses on the big picture of law enforcement, the state laws and stuff like that. And then when they go to their little towns or whatever, they can get additional training. Wichita, because it's so large, it's got, obviously being the largest city, it has the most crime rate in Wichita. So you do everything that the state requires plus what the city wanted us to add in there as well. It's 6 months of training, but your training doesn't stop there. We do every 6 months we do training, mandatory in-service training, and it just depends on topics. They'll go over what's been going on throughout the year, anything that we need to specifically work on, focus on. They'll talk about. Just reiterate certain things that are kind of hot points or topics and stuff that are always good to keep up on.
Yeah, so when something nationally is going on that's crazy, like let's say the George Floyd thing or something else that's like major news, there's a big movement against the police or for the police, are those things that are brought up in your training and are like...
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Our trainings try to focus on current trends, what's going on in the United States and things like that. So I think Wichita does a pretty good job of trying to keep up on everything. Like I said, and we do, you've got your 6-month academy, and then there's always mandatory trainings that come out every few months that we have to do, whether it's, class-based or an online course that you have to do, but they're always constantly doing training. And then in addition to that, we're required to do so many training hours on our own outside of what's mandated by the city. And so most officers are always doing training at some point, and we can go almost anywhere for training. We get daily emails for training over.
Well, that's great to hear, because
Absolutely.
a big misconception, like I said, is I think a lot of people believe that police officers don't have enough training, or they have the minimum amount of training required, and that's why you're seeing these issues with cops that are pulling guns on people or whatever.
Absolutely.
And that's not the case, really, then.
At least definitely not here in
Not
Wichita.
where you're at least.
Like I said, I can't account for other agencies. Every state's different. Every city's different. But Wichita does a pretty good job at trying to make sure everybody stays up on training and things like that. And so, which is good, because you don't know everything about your job.
Right.
I learn something new every day, and I've been doing it for 4 years now. I've officers that I talk to that have been on 15, 20 years. Always have stuff to come up. They're like, hey, I haven't done this in years, or that's a new for me. I mean, it's an always evolving career. Your job every day is not the same. Every call is different, whether it sounds similar to the one you just went on or not. So it's always good to keep up on the training.
Yeah, so you guys are obviously training and qualifying on weapons too, right?
Yes.
So you're training on a 9mm, probably?
Yes. Wichita, primary weapon system is the 9mm handgun.
Glocks, right?
Glock is what we use, and a lot of agencies in the United States use Glock.
Yeah.
It's kind of the go-to. It's been the standard for years now. Some people love them, some people hate them. I love the Glock. I'd never had one before getting on the police department, but ever since then, I mean, I've enjoyed it. That's what I carry off duty as well.
So you train on that, and then you're also carrying a taser and some other things?
Yes, we carry some of our general equipment, like tasers, pepper spray, things like that, all which you have to be trained on.
And is the rumor true that you have to get tased and pepper sprayed as well if you're going to carry it?
Yes.
How was that?
If I had to pick between the two, I would choose a taser all day.
Are you serious?
Yes. So pepper spray is one of those gifts that keeps on giving. You get sprayed with it, and it can last anywhere between a few minutes to 15 to 20 minutes of just general effect. And then, eventually when you go to wash it off or whatever later, it's water activated, so it can reactivate.
Oh, that's
so
fun.
You may go hop in the shower, and you might get a little spicy down under if you don't lean forward as you're rinsing your face and hair off. So it can last for.
Yeah, you don't want that pepper spray to run down onto your junk.
Absolutely not.
I've experienced that just with jalapenos I'm cutting up, and I go take a piss.
You're taking hot crotch to a whole new level there. So, so you get pepper sprayed. You go through an obstacle course with that.
You go through the obstacle course after you're
after
sprayed?
You get sprayed, just to show that you can, if you had to fight through it, you could. Because you do sometimes, depending on wind and stuff, it can come back and hit you if you spray somebody.
So it's straight up miserable
It's
the
straight
whole time.
Up miserable the entire time. Every now and then you'll get people that just have no reaction, and usually,
I've heard about those freaks.
Yeah, exactly. Freak is correct. And usually everybody wants to fight them after class because everybody's dying, and they're over here like, oh, this isn't too bad.
Yeah, isn't it like a certain percentage of people that don't even react to the?
Yeah, it's a small percentage. But there's people. We had at least one in my academy class.
Wow.
Didn't have any reaction, and it's
that's like a superpower.
Yeah, it should be. Superman can fly, which is cool, whatever. We got airplanes for that. But, how about getting sprayed in the face with
pepper spray?
Pepper spray. Feels like the devil's peeing on you, and you're like, oh, this is no big deal, brush it off. So
Now, the same probably isn't true for tasers, though.
Taser. So taser is it's intended for neuromuscular incapacitation. So basically what it does is it I'm not too specific on the science side behind it, but basically it just makes your muscles kind of convulse over and over again, which causes that lockup and incapacitates you for a short period of time. And so, you have to get tased with that. It's a 5-second ride is what it is, but it feels probably like 30 minutes.
Yes.
I don't know if it's true or not, but supposedly, like a 15-second ride on a taser is equivalent to like an hour workout.
Hey,
because your muscles are just constantly going.
I know, man. You want to know a secret? I've been
What's that?
tased.
Yeah.
I worked with some cops a while back.
Okay.
And I volunteered to do it. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try it out.
Yeah.
They all went through it.
Yeah.
And so they held a $100 bill over me, and they said if I can grab it when I'm being tased, and I only went 5 seconds, I think.
Yeah, I think most tasers run for 5 seconds initially.
Yeah, but I couldn't grab the $100 bill. It was straight up miserable. Felt like 2 minutes.
Yeah, it feels way longer than 5 seconds.
So I don't even want to know what pepper spray feels like now.
Yeah, it's basically like your face is on fire for upwards of 30 minutes, and then you wash everything off, and then it catches on fire again. So
No, sir.
but yeah, I would take Taser any day. Because once it's done, it's done. That pepper spray, OC spray, whatever you want to call it, it sticks. It stays around. So.
And you use it on people? Have you so far?
I have used it on people. I think pepper spray is a phenomenal tool, especially for large disturbances. My job, the city's divided up into beats, and my beat covers the Old Town area of Wichita, downtown, where all the bars and stuff are.
So you got to deal with a lot of drunks.
I do, and people get a little liquid courage under them, and sometimes they want to fight. And you can get some pretty good fights of upwards of 5 to 10 plus people, and it's a huge safety ordeal to just jump in there and try to break that up because, a normal person, if somebody's yelling, police, stop, or whatever, that they're not going to hear that because they're in the moment. They're fighting. Oh, yeah. So as soon as somebody grabs them, they think it's somebody else just jumping in to fight.
And they swing on you.
They want to try to swing on you. So pepper spray is a great tool because you start spraying people that are fighting, you get a good contact in the face. I mean, most of the time
they're done.
They're done fighting. That takes the fight out of you.
They're crying. They're calling their mom and getting a ride home.
Yeah. It's a great tool, especially for large crowds, large disturbances, things like that. They're good on animals too.
Bears.
Bears.
Which we don't have here.
Yeah. How cool would it be though to ride one into work? But,
yeah.
You get aggressive dogs, and they may not necessarily be aggressive because they're just mean dogs, but, dogs have always been the protectors. And so, every now and then you'll get dogs that get a little aggressive, want to bite and snap. Plus, Wichita, you go into the city, has lots of stray dogs, and they can get pretty mean.
So you just spray them?
You can spray them with pepper spray, and it works great because
really?
They have that heightened sense of smell.
Oh.
And that pepper spray just clogs everything up. And so immediately once you get sprayed, you'll start getting your eyes swelled, will swell up, your nose will start running, things like that. It just kind of shuts you down, and a dog amplifies that. It's a great tool. I've sprayed a couple dogs before that have, started biting at my legs and snapping at me and stuff like that. So it's great for that as well.
You don't carry a dog with you, do you?
I do not carry a dog. There's a specific the canine unit specifically.
Yeah.
They have dogs, which is pretty cool.
I've seen some cool videos of those dogs.
Yeah, they're pretty impressive.
Oh yeah.
The stuff they can do and things like that. It's great to have. And it also helps. It's a huge safety thing. You could bring a dog out on scene, and that'll make somebody listen.
Oh, dude.
'Cause nobody wants to get bit.
I tell you what, if I was running from the cops and you guys were releasing the dogs on me,
Yeah,
that'd freak me out. That'd be game over. I'd sit down
and I mean the dogs they're highly trained. They only go when they're told to go. And there's certain things that they're trained to do to stop when a person stops whatever their behavior is and stuff like that. I mean, so we have tons of different tools for the job. Everybody always says, we go straight to shooting people. That's not the case. We carry tasers. We carry. They're called less lethal munitions because almost anything can be lethal if you use it wrong. But we have tasers, we have pepper spray, we even carry batons that extend out that you can use, and they're intended to be hitting soft points like the meaty parts of the body, thighs and stuff like that. If you have to.
The old school nightstick.
Yeah. It's essentially.
Yeah.
Ours now are kind of like a Robin style superhero tool. He's got a little staff that extends out. Yeah, ours is something kind of like that. It's usually about this, probably 6 inches long, and then it extends all the way out to probably about a foot longer, maybe a little more.
So it's scary. You're in a lot of scary situations, and that's why I have so much respect for people like you, because when you pull a car over, every single time you walk up to that window, it's somebody new, somebody in a different situation, and
absolutely,
and you just never know what they're gonna do.
Exactly. Traffic stops can be one of the most high risk things that you do for a police officer. I mean, how many times do you see on the news that officers get shot on a traffic stop or something like that? Especially like me, I work nights. And so you never know. Nowadays, everybody has a gun, whether they can have one legally or not. You just don't know what's in that vehicle. You don't know what that person's intent is. anything like that. And so yeah, they can be very, very high risk. And so
you're just always probably mentally prepared, right? When you're walking up to a
it's
vehicle.
one of those things you have to always be prepared. You hope for the best, but prepare for the worst kind of thing. Because last thing you want to be is stuck with the wrong foot forward kind of thing. You want to be able to react because you want to be you don't want to be reactionary to something. You want to be ready for it.
Right. You don't want to be off your P's and Q's and not know exactly where your hand's going and what you're doing. And that's part of the problem, I think, which, whatever side of the fence you're on. I mean, just imagine being in a situation and you're so stressed out that you don't really know what you're doing. Because, I mean, when you're grabbing your gun, you got to know exactly what you're doing, right?
Exactly. We do extensive training in the academy and throughout the year for firearms training. You got to know when you can use your firearm, when is it justified, when it's not. And a lot of it is no different than the average person. You can't just walk up and shoot somebody because you want to. You've got to meet certain criteria to be able to use deadly force on somebody. And the training is still the same for us.
And that's if your life is threatened, probably,
exactly.
Right?
If you're trying to, if your life is threatened, somebody's threatening you with the potential to cause great bodily harm or death, or they're threatening somebody else, you're justified to use that. Just like, any normal citizen, you're allowed to use your firearm, and you can be covered under the Constitution for that, state laws for that, federal laws and stuff, because, at the end of the day, nobody wants to shoot somebody. That's not our job.
No.
That's not our...
Your goal is probably to avoid shooting at all.
Exactly. There's lots of officers on the department that have gone 10, 15 years and never, shot anybody or discharged their firearm other than, at training, which is what we want. Nobody wants to shoot somebody or kill them, because whether it's the worst person in the world, it could be Adolf Hitler, just a complete shit person.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're still living with that in your conscience that you killed somebody, no matter how horrible they are. And you don't know how that's going to affect you till it happens. So nobody wants to do that. So yeah.
And if you do want to do that, you probably shouldn't be a cop.
Absolutely.
You probably shouldn't be in society.
Yeah, definitely. If you've got that bloodlust and that's your intent, law enforcement's not the job for you. Because we're not here to hurt people. We're not here to kill people. That's not what most people take that job for. There's always a few bad apples in the bunch, but over time they get weeded out. Sometimes it's difficult to find that. So we do tons of training to go through all different levels of what's called the force continuum, leading all the way up to deadly force. And it goes as, bottom line of just your presence. Command presence is a big thing. You want to be out there and know that, hey, you're in control. You're not going to let somebody, run all over you, control it. Your demeanor, that says a lot. You walk up to a situation, whether you're a cop or not, and you see some guy that's, screaming and yelling, all amped up and buff. You're going to look at that guy and say, oh, he's here to mean business. It's the same concept. You show up to a scene and you're timid and shy and things like that. People are going to pick up on that. They're like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, or this gal doesn't know what she's doing. But if you show up and, you don't have to scream and yell, but if you can have a stern tone in your voice and, let them know that, hey, I'm here, I'm in control now, and I'll figure out what's going on and go from there. And then it moves up, from there to all the different, techniques we have. We train for different techniques to take people down to, to allow the least amount of injuries to somebody, to get them under control and apprehended as quickly as possible, all the way up to, the less lethal stuff, tasers, batons, OC spray. We even have shotguns that shoot beanbound rags at people. And we have
I think they did that on Jackass.
Yeah. We have a 40 millimeter gun that shoots a foam baton round at people. I mean, they're great tools that prevent us from having to go as far as deadly force. And so we continue doing that training and everything throughout the year.
What are one of the craziest scenarios you've ever been in or walked up on?
Oh, it's tough because there's tons of them.
Yeah?
You just never know.
Have you ever had anybody that's so drugged out or like on PCP or meth that they don't react to any pain or anything?
I've had that happen. I've had people that have been tased not by me, but other officers while I've been on scene, and it doesn't affect them. They just don't feel that at all. They don't get no lockup or anything. I've had people that have taken that are 5 foot nothing, 100 pounds soaking wet, that are so amped up on whatever drug that they can fight 10 to 15 officers like they're a superhero.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, there's all it's just tons of crazy stuff.
Have you ever walked up on a vehicle that you pulled over and they pulled a gun or something on you?
I've never had anybody pull a gun on me. I've had people, run with guns in their hands. I've showed up on scene where people have had guns already out, things like that. I've never had actually anybody pull a gun on me, luckily, knock on wood. But,
yeah, thank God.
I've been on scene where people have shot at me. I've been on scene where people were shooting at officers that were in my area. I've been on scene where people have, been shooting at other citizens. So, I mean, you never know what you're going to get when you get out there. It's kind of like Forrest Gump said, being a cop's like a box of chocolates because you never know what you're going to get.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, something
like that.
Yeah. I mean, I've witnessed people in police chases getting accidents. I've witnessed, I've seen all sorts of crazy.
You've probably seen some gnarly
stuff.
ass injuries and stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been out on fatality accidents. I've been out on, homicides, been out on shootings and cuttings. I mean, pretty much anything that's in that realm, I've at least seen or experienced some aspect of it.
Does that stuff ever bother you, or are you cool with your job? Are you just like that's?
For me, it does not. I try to compartmentalize. I know work is work, home is home. Obviously everybody has a bad day. I've been out on child deaths. I've got kids myself. I've got a.
It's pretty horrific.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a newborn. I've got a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. And any normal human being is sees that. That's not an ideal situation. But I try to know that, hey, that's work. That it's part of the job. I knew what I was signing up for, but a lot of it's also talking to people, talking to other officers. I've had officers text me, call me, be like, "Hey, man, that was fucked up.
Yeah,
I need, like absolutely, that's what you're here for. You're here to talk because we can relate. I talk to my wife about what goes on at work. So she knows what happens, and so a lot of it's just talking. You don't want to keep that pent up inside of you. Because eventually it all explodes, and then usually that's when bad stuff happens. Because at the end of the day, you're a human being.
Right.
You put on a gun and a badge and wear a uniform, but you're no different than the grandma at the grocery store shopping. You're just a person.
You can still experience mental stress and
absolutely. And mental stress is one of the biggest things for law enforcement. I think one of the top causes of death for law enforcement in the United States is suicide. Because we see so much messed up shit.
Yeah.
And it affects everybody differently. So
yeah, and God bless you guys for doing that. I'm glad that you can compartmentalize and keep yourself, just aware of what reality is and
absolutely.
What home is.
In Wichita, we have tons of resources for people in law enforcement, therapy, all sorts of things to help cope with that too. Because last thing you want is somebody to have to experience something like that and not know how to deal with it. So there's tons of options for us to seek that help and reach out when we need it.
And not to mention some of the dislike and just calls for defunding the police that have happened in recent times. Does that stuff ever bother you guys? How do you deal with being called a racist or wanting to be defunded? I mean,
to me, it doesn't bother me. It's just kind of part of the job. I mean, when I was in the military, I got called a baby killer.
Yeah.
By a lady who probably has no clue where that originated from.
Right.
I've been called every name in the book in the military and stuff like that, and I'm like, lady, do you realize, a lot of the stuff you're telling me is stuff that originated during like Vietnam and World War I and II and all stuff like that. Like it, okay, whatever. I get called every name you can think of. That's derogatory for
especially
a white
as a
person.
cop.
Yeah. For a white person by people on scene. You just got to know that it's part of the job. You can't let that stuff get to you personally.
Yeah, you can't, because in your heart that you're not, and in your heart you're doing the best job you can. So those people don't know you personally. They don't know who you are.
Exactly. It's it's a job for us. It just has a little higher standard. And, I tell people all the time, we can get in a knockout, drag out fight, but once the situation's done, that person's in custody, they're still a human being. You still need to treat them with respect, because it does me no good to, be like, fuck you, man, you're going to fight me, blah, 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 after it's all said and done. Because, generally when we interact with people on the job that call us, it's, it's like the worst day of their life.
Yeah,
the
for sure.
They have to call us, even if it's something that we may think is minute and not, worth my time. To them it is.
Exactly.
That's why they called us. Whether it's a shooting or an argument between a couple or whatever, that situation has gotten so out of control in their mind that they need outside intervention, and they call us. And so, you show up on scene, I don't know what's going on with that person. They may have been to prison and they don't want to go back. They may be under the influence of drugs or alcohol. It's not necessarily an excuse for their behavior, but I don't know what is going on in their mind to make them do that. I've had people that I've gotten in some pretty good scraps with at work, and once they're in custody and things like that, they would apologize, tell them they're sorry for their behavior, and they'd explain why they did that. It helps me see into their mind.
They're just having the shittiest day of their life.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's exactly what the firefighter that I had on here said. Derek Brenner, shout out to him. He said the same thing, basically. He's like, when I roll up on a job or when I roll up on a call, it's the worst day of that person's life. Even if it's, some lady's cat stuck in a tree. Because I'm sure that you also get calls for stuff that's just so stupid. You're like, you got to be kidding me. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of people think that as a law enforcement officer, all we do is write tickets, take people to jail, investigate crimes, and we do more than that. We have the Wichita is what's called the Homeless Outreach Team. It's nationally recognized, and they literally work with the homeless people. They get them set up with jobs, identification, social security cards, places to stay, and they work to get them off the street so that they're no longer homeless. We have a team that works with people going through mental health crisis, stuff like that. They work with getting them into therapists, hospitals, and stuff to try to help with whatever mental health illness that they're going with. We show up to people that are suicidal.
Yeah,
it's not a crime to kill yourself. It's not a crime to be suicidal, but we still show up to the calls like that. We talk to the people. We ask them, hey, why do you feel the way that you feel? Why do you want to harm yourself? Why do you want to kill yourself? And we get them to the medical facilities that they need to go to the hospitals, to ComCare, things like that, which is it's a mental health facility with therapists that's state funded. So we do more than just write tickets and take people to jail. I work, my beat is downtown. It's got a huge homeless population. Probably at least once a night I get a call, especially, when the weather sucks, when it's cold, raining, stuff like that, for a homeless person that wants to go to a shelter. So we'll pick them up, we'll take them to a homeless shelter, we'll take them to wherever they want to go within a reasonable limit. It's more than just taking people to jail and stuff like that. We help people through all aspects, whether it's mental health, we even have people that go out and that have been getting donations for people that lose their houses to fires. And we've got a police department, we have officers that go out and get them new furniture, groceries, all sorts of stuff. I mean, it's literally a civil service job, just like the fire department. You see on the news that they do stuff like that all the time as well. You're not just there to investigate the crime. Or,
you're not just there to radar every single person going to work in the morning and give them a ticket for going 5 over.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, how fast can we go over the speed limit before you guys are going to flip on the lights?
Technically, you can't speed at all. I want to say that...
we all know, though, you can do like 5 over and you're going to be good.
Everybody drives at least 5 over. I want to say the ticket prices don't even start to like 5 or 10 over the speed limit. I don't, honestly, I couldn't tell you. I don't write a whole lot of speeding tickets. I leave that to the traffic officers.
There's a lot more going on in your world.
Exactly. My focus is on another aspect of things. I work along South Broadway, and any major city out there has a Broadway, and it's usually, like...
It's usually like a sketchy-ass place where there's...
Exactly. It's like,
hookers, prostitutes,
drugs. I mean, every major, felony persons crime and stuff like that. We have that.
So you come across prostitutes and hookers all the time?
I do.
You ever see them walking along the street and you're like, oh, you're definitely a prostitute?
Yeah, you start to pick up on it. Pretty Woman really did me dirty because I was expecting, like a Julia Roberts kind of style, that when I, coming in this job for prostitutes, and unfortunately that is not the case.
They're not that good looking, are they?
Definitely not. And a lot of it's, they're drugs or sex trafficked, things like that. I deal with people that are addicted to drugs, people that are prostitutes, people that are gang members. You can think of it. I've probably dealt with it at some aspect.
Which, prostitutes is kind of crazy because it's not really a crime until they're doing the act, but then how do you even catch that,
It's tricky. So basically, the sale of sexual relations, which is what the term is, I think, for city ordinance and state statute, and it's basically the gist of it is making an agreement to have some type of sexual act in exchange for something of value. If you wanted to say, hey, I'll give you a cheeseburger from McDonald's for a blowjob, and they agree to it, it's technically prostitution. It doesn't have to be money. It just has to be something of of value. So a lot of times you don't have, you go down an alleyway, you may catch somebody,
That must be a hungry prostitute if they're giving BJ's out for burgers.
Absolutely. So you may catch somebody that's, right in the middle of the act, balls deep to say, but
that's what the weird thing is like hanging out with somebody and giving them a tip or whatever, like you would consider that an escort, right? Which isn't technically illegal. So
Correct.
It's like a really gray area, I feel like.
Yeah, so you can get a license to be an escort, but it's literally what it sounds like. It's an escort. You basically are like arm candy for this person. You show up, you walk around, show them off, look at my lady. Everybody's like, we know it's not your lady. You probably paid for her to come here, but, that's perfectly legal. But once you start saying, hey, I will pay you to do this sexually, then that makes it prostitution. And the one of the biggest arguments, especially on the West Coast, is prostitution. The crime is society, or the victim is society, which is true, yes. But you got to look at the other side of it. A lot of women in prostitution are sex trafficked. They're forced into it. They get hooked on drugs, things like that. So there's more than just that aspect of somebody out there. Because someone say, well, okay, who cares if she wants to, go.
Yeah,
go give blowjobs for $50. That's
right.
Your prerogative. Yeah, cool. It's all fine and dandy, but at the end of the day, there's usually a lot more to it. She may not be wanting to do that. She may be forced by somebody else. She may.
And sex trafficking is a big deal right now.
It's huge. In Kansas, it's huge because we're right in the middle. You can basically come here and then split off anywhere you want in the United States. We see it all the time on the news. I've dealt with runaways, 15, 16-year-old girls, even guys that want to run away, and they get picked up by somebody, and they end up in Texas, Oklahoma, wherever, put into sex trafficking and things like that. So, there's a lot more to it than just the prostitution side of it. There's a whole another aspect, just like with drugs. West Coast, it's huge to decriminalize pretty much all drugs. You can pretty much do whatever you want. Cool, you're not hurting anybody when you're, smoking your meth or whatever, but what are you going to do after you're high as a kite? Then you're going to go out and pillage and plunder the city. Those are the people that are going out and robbing people, cutting people, shooting them just so that they can get $15-$20 to get their next fix. Catalytic converter thefts are huge. A lot of the people that are out there,
I've heard of that so much lately.
Yeah, they cause thousands of dollars of damage on a vehicle just so that they can go scrap it and buy more drugs or whatever.
Yeah.
So the essence of itself, you're not hurting anybody smoking meth or making that bad decision, but what are you doing when you're high? What are you doing to get that meth? You're committing crimes. And so it's a huge scale of things that, all wraps into one. So just like I said, it's ever evolving and always changing.
It's always changing, and that's another big thing is like weed especially.
Yeah.
With the way of the world, it's being legalized state by state. It's being looked at right now actually to be federally decriminalized.
It is.
How is that
just passed? I think the House just passed to decriminalize it, and I think a bill went to the Senate.
How is that dealt with by police officers now?
Yes, it's just state by state. I mean, here in Kansas, it's still illegal, so you still can't.
You still have to follow the law no matter what, obviously.
Exactly. Whether I agree with the law or not, I still have to follow it to a T, just like anybody else, whether you agree with it. If you disagree with it, that's when you go to your legislators, your politicians, and you try to, petition to change those laws. I mean, because that's the only way that's going to happen. But at the end of the day, if it's illegal, it's illegal. And it's for a reason. Lots of states that have decriminalized or legalized marijuana still have crime associated with it. Look at guns. Guns are perfectly legal for people to own, but there's still crime associated with it. People are going to find a way to get it illegally or do whatever. I mean, we get tons of, we get drug deals all the time that are marijuana based. Colorado still gets crime that's marijuana based because I can go buy it from a dispensary for this much, or I can go buy it on the street for a lot cheaper. Or I can go sell it on my own and not get taxed on it. There's all sorts.
There's
of
always a black market for things.
Exactly. You can probably find a black market for just about anything you want.
Cigarettes, you could probably find somebody that sells them illegally.
Up to 18-year-olds because or 19-year-olds who could smoke last year but now can't this year, kind of thing. I mean, there's always a market for something, and people are going to find a way to go around the rules and to bend them to do whatever they want with it.
Yeah. So one of the things that I know from the old timers that I've talked to and stuff is like, you work with some cops probably that are older that have been there for 20 or 30 years.
Absolutely.
Back in the day, they're known for, you always hear that old timer saying, oh, when we would be driving drunk or whatever, they would just be like, just get home safe. And, they were way more lenient with stuff like that.
Yeah.
How did those guys adapt? And is that still kind of a thing at all in the police department?
No. I mean, I think Wichita tries to stay ahead of the curve pretty well. And it's one of those things, drunk driving, back in the day was not as huge of a deal. It was one of those, hey, get home safe. Hey, do this,
right.
Hey, do that kind of thing.
The world has changed so much.
Exactly. It's changed so much. And when you look at, fatality accidents, I want to say DUIs are one of the number one leading causes for fatalities. It's just we've gotten smarter and we've done the research and we've learned that, hey, maybe we need to stop this trend kind of thing. And so, everybody wants to be that good guy that says, hey, I know you're a little tipsy, blah, 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 let's get you a ride home or whatever. But let's be real, if you've driven drunk once, you've probably driven it before. And it's only a matter of time before you end up hitting somebody or killing somebody. It's horrible for that person and their family to lose somebody that got hit by a drunk driver. That person made a bad decision to do that, but you got to think about that person too. Most of them are good people, teachers, doctors, police officers, veterinary.
It's happened to everybody.
Yeah, it happened to everybody. And that person has to live with the thought that they just made a bad decision to drive drunk and killed somebody. And mentally that really, messes somebody up. And so it's one of those things is, as time goes on, we get smarter and we realize, when there's a trend that's a problem and we try to address it. And so I think, back in the day, they definitely would do stuff like that.
For sure. I mean, you hear about that all the time.
Yeah,
Are
absolutely.
any of those older police officers hesitant to adapt these new changes and stuff?
I'm sure. Not everybody's a fan of change. And some do it well, some don't. It's just like any other career. You look at somebody in aviation that's done it for 20, 30 years, and then they all of a sudden change something, and they get pissed because like, well, we've always done it this way. And a lot of the times there's a reason that they do it. And I'd say majority of the time when they change stuff, it's probably for a good reason because, like I said, we've adapted and we've learned that there's a more efficient way to do things or a safer way to do things. And just because it's easier or you're used to it one way doesn't mean it's the right way to do it. And so, I'm sure there's some of the guys that have been on the department forever, they have a tough time
this is
adjusting.
bullshit,
Absolutely. One of the biggest things is when they went to computers. It was pretty comical to see all these guys that have been on the department for 20 years that hand wrote everything, tickets, cases, all that, and then to watch them try to learn how to use a computer. It's like teaching grandma how to Facebook kind of thing.
Some of the technology you guys have is pretty cool too. Can't you scan license plates now?
Yeah, we can look up license plates, driver's licenses. There's all sorts of tools that we have. we tell people a lot of times they want to lie about who they are. I'm like, it's 2022. It's pretty much damn near impossible to lie to the police. There's social media. There's all sorts of avenues that we can go to identify somebody or figure out what's going on. There's a database for everything. Sometimes we have access to it, sometimes we don't. But we're trained and taught and held to a standard that you can only use it for job-related stuff. We're humans. Officers get in trouble for misuse, and a lot of them end up getting fired because nobody wants it on the department. But we have avenues and resources to look people up, find people, and stuff like that. That's just part of the job.
Someday there's not even going to be any paper stuff involved. You're probably just going to roll up and know everything.
Yeah,
right?
At this point we're getting pretty close, at least for Wichita, and doing a lot of stuff online. We type everything online, reports, stuff like that. We do tickets online. A lot of the stuff, and that's just today's world. Everything's going online. We got cars that drive themselves nowadays.
I know, dude. Let's make that mainstream, right?
Absolutely.
Then you don't have to worry about drunk drivers.
I'm sure when exactly. There's your Uber.
Exactly.
It's your own car.
Go jump in your car and let it take you home.
I'm sure when my small children get to the age of driving, I would imagine that cars are probably going to be fully automated and driving on their own.
I hope so.
It'd be
cool. What's cool? My grandpa used to say, and he was born in the 1920s, that he would leave the bar. And this is out in the country, so they were still driving horses and buggies on the farm. He said that his horses knew how to get home. Yeah. It was like a 5-mile ride. So he would just come out and jump in the buggy, drunk as hell, pass out, and the horses would drive him home.
Get him home. Yeah. They've had Uber for years. It's just a different, different
That's going to be a reality again someday.
It will. Like I said, Tesla, I'm pretty sure, pretty much is a fully self-driving car.
It is, but it's not legal yet.
No, and you still have to
have a hand on the wheel
and somewhat control. But Tesla's pretty far ahead of the game, and I imagine in the next 10, 15, 20 years that's where we're going to be at. So maybe some of that crime like DUIs and stuff will be a lot lower. It'll never go away. Somebody will hack their smart car or whatever and do some crazy stuff.
There's always going to be stuff like that going on.
There's people that have hacked their Teslas and other smart cars to watch Netflix while they're driving.
Scary thought.
Yeah, you're driving down the road watching, whatever.
Watching a movie.
Yeah, watching a movie, and your car's just driving itself kind of thing. So there's always going to be workarounds and stuff. But yeah, adapting and changing is a part of every job. It's just more prevalent in law enforcement. Laws are always being changed. There's case law which comes out when somebody takes a case to the state and stuff. That changes how we do our jobs. We've evolved to using a lot more online resources and computer-based stuff. So it's just, some people adapt well, some don't. It just kind of depends on, how well you can change and evolve.
So what's your daily routine like when you show up to work? Do you show up and then get in a car that's assigned to you or something, and then you just kind of cruise your route?
Yeah, a little bit. So when we first get to work, we have what's called squad. We have a meeting. Everybody shows up. We kind of go over what's gone over the last day or two. Any important things that they want to send out, they'll tell us. Any training stuff or things that have been going on, they'll talk about things like that. If there's any big events going on, we'll go over that just so that we're aware. Any crime trends and stuff. And then at that point, everybody has a beat. Which is your kind of little patrol area, and every beat has a car assigned to it. So usually you get into that car. So you'll come in, you'll grab some of the equipment you need, like tasers and stuff like that. You'll go load up in your car, and then from that point, you'll go out and just patrol, cruise around. If a call comes out, you'll get dispatched to it, and you'll go show up to the call, handle business, do what you need to do, and then go on to the next. If there's no calls or anything like that, you just drive around.
So a lot of your shifts sometimes can just be cruising around?
Yeah, cruising around and initiating your own stuff. We have areas that are high crime trend areas. So you cruise through there, you look for that. You look for people that are breaking into businesses, stealing catalytic converters. You go drive around drug houses, known gang areas, stuff like that. Because that more presence allows you to mitigate, those crimes. Mm-hmm. And if you see something that's illegal or whatever, you can take the action and stop it and stuff like that. Because it's part of the job, not just going to dispatch calls, but, initiating your own stuff as well, because, people can't be everywhere. So, seeing us driving around and stuff like that, it helps out.
And then when your shift is over, you just go back and clock out, and that's it?
You just come back and, you make sure all your reports, everything are done for the night, and any paperwork that you need to turn in, and then you unload all your stuff, you go home, and, go from there, go to sleep or whatever you choose to do, so...
Is it paid hourly or salary?
We're paid hourly, yes.
Okay.
So, which is nice because we get a lot of overtime. I would hate to be salary.
What do the opportunities look like for you guys making a career out of this? You can obviously probably make a great career out of it and afford a good home for your family and stuff, but like
Absolutely.
retirement?
It's good retirement. The city of Wichita as a whole has pretty good retirement set up. And then a lot of people have their own retirements in addition that they put money in and stuff like that. So overall it's a good career. It pays pretty well. I think their recruit classes now are making like $24-25 an hour. I think starting out. I think it's on the website. It goes in a little more detail and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a pretty good starting salary. It obviously could always be better, especially with the line of work we do. But for your average person, you're making good money.
And you get a lot of overtime. You
get overtime a lot of the time. So you get paid, your overtime pay and stuff like that. And so overall, you make pretty good money for what you do.
Is it like the military in the sense that you do 20 years and you get a full retirement?
Yeah, a lot of it's pretty similar. With the police department, at 10 years, you get what's called vested, and I think that's when you can start getting some type of retirement. And then I think like 15 or 20 years, you get a little more, and then there's a cap where you get like the most retirement that you can get.
I see.
So yeah, there's a retirement involved in it for sure. And most people usually do pretty decent in their retirement as long as they've lived within their means up to that point and stuff. So it definitely sets you up down the line to to have a good career, make decent money, and then retire and not be struggling.
Hell yeah. What's your advice to people out there that want to become a police officer?
Do a little bit of research, figure out where you want to work, and do ride-alongs. Contact the police department, say, hey, I'm interested in being a cop. I want to come do a ride-along. You can go to any patrol station. There's 4 of them. You've got, Patrol South is at Pawnee and Broadway, which is kind of my realm. You've got Patrol West is over off of like Central and 235. I think it's just to the east of that. The Patrol North Station is over off of, it's right down the street from Wichita State, just kind of in between the highway and where Wichita State is. And then the Patrol East Station is over off, I want to say, like Kellogg and Edgemore. Just, look them up, find their address, find their phone number, call them, say you want to do a ride-along, go do that. It's a good experience. You get to sit in a cop car with a police officer. You get to see what we do, ride around and see some of the craziness that we deal with and stuff, and it can really give you a good aspect of what you want. And then from there, just apply. What's the worst that they could tell you? No. And we get told no all the time. Hell, I got a 2-year-old, and I think that's her favorite word is no.
Yeah, no.
So you get pretty used to it. It's a good career.
You going to give me a ride-along?
Absolutely.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I'll give you a ride-along for sure. Come by, and we'll get you hooked up.
Yeah, man, let's do it.
You could do a Friday night. That's usually when it gets pretty crazy. So, it's a good career. It's a civil service career, and if you're in it for the right reasons, you definitely get a good feeling about it, knowing that you've helped that person.
And you're satisfied, and it feels rewarding to you.
Absolutely,
every day.
I feel every day. I feel rewarding. Even taking people to jail. Sometimes it feels a little rewarding to that when you have that person that's in a horrible relationship that's getting beat on, hit on, and has always been scared to call. That you potentially could have saved that person's life. You stop that drunk driver, you potentially could have just saved them from hitting somebody. Even the homeless person that is out there in the freezing cold. You feel good knowing that, hey, I found them the resources to get them off the streets and get them that help, so something bad didn't happen down the line. So it's definitely, if you're into that kind of realm of work, you want to, make your community safer, make it better, help people, law enforcement's definitely the way to go.
Hell yeah, brother.
We don't make cool, fancy calendars like the fire department, but...
maybe you should start that.
Maybe we should, We can throw in the...
no one's telling you can't make one on your own. Just do one full of Zach Weatherby.
Yeah,
right?
why not?
12 pictures.
I'll play into the stereotypes with donuts and stuff like that. We'll make it good. So,
Yeah, donuts. How many donuts do you eat on shift?
I think I'm kind of the exception. Growing up, you would know, obviously, being related, my mom was always called the donut dog because she loved donuts, which is weird because she was, you would think somebody that ate as much donuts as she would be huge, and she wasn't. And so I kind of picked up that realm, so I love donuts.
Hell yeah. You're feeding the stereotypes,
absolutely,
right?
Yeah. My 6-year-old has this agreement that I didn't really agree to, but have now been kind of scapegoated into doing that. Every Saturday when I come home from work, I have to bring her donuts from Winchell's, because Winchell's is obviously
Winchell's is the best.
Absolutely. If you say otherwise, those are fighting words.
Those are.
But so I bring her donuts every Saturday morning, her and my other kids. But yeah. I would say I eat a lot more than most.
Hell yeah.
Because I love donuts.
That's a real cop.
Absolutely. You can't be a cop without donuts.
Hell no, man.
Yeah. So.
Well, Zach, I appreciate you coming on, man. Thanks for serving and protecting our community. I mean,
absolutely.
You really are in it for the right reason. I've known you my whole life, so I can honestly say that. I hope most of other police officers are as well, and according to you, most of them are probably. So
yeah,
stay tough out there. Keep yourself. Take care of your mental health.
Yeah.
Don't let the opinions of the world affect you at all. You guys are doing good work out there. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for talking about it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Cheers, man.
Thank you. Cheers.